All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about index analysis versus indicator analysis. And if you have a chance and you're watching live, go ahead and take the poll. I'm kind of curious about what you do as far as your index and indicator analysis. But I wanted to discuss with you the differences and the benefits of studying one versus the other, and what you might do and why you might do that, why you might study the indicators and not just the index. So here's what I mean. Let's just go ahead and dive in. So really what I mean by index analysis is really a study of each index individually. So you take your index and you look at all the indicators for it and see what it's saying. Then you can go with the indicator analysis, which is sort of the opposite way. You study an indicator across all the indexes. So for example, you could look at the McClellan oscillator across all the different indexes and then get a feel for what's going on as far as breadth with the McClellan oscillator and summation indexes. So I'm going to show you how you can do that, because it's not really an easy thing to just be able to pick up and find all the indicators to look at them across those indexes. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. But here's what we're going to talk about first. We're going to look at starting with an index and then looking at the indicators for that index. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because I suspect this is what we all do more often than not, is start with an index and start looking at those indicators to give us a feel for what's going on in that index. So why might we do it? We're probably interested in maybe the condition of that index. For example, the S&P 500, which is the one most of us study all the time, every day. So you might be interested in the condition of that index. Maybe you want to go look at the NASDAQ and find out the condition of it by looking at all the different indicators. Maybe you're considering an investment in a particular index, like the S&P 600, for example. Maybe you want to evaluate the breadth and the PMO analysis. You want to look at all of the different market indicators that you can get on that particular index. So let's go ahead, and these are the places where you can do index analysis. And of course, you can do it on your own and not just use Decision Point. But I wanted to show you, of course, being the Decision Point lady, I wanted to show you how you can use Decision Point to do your index analysis and likely save yourself quite a bit of time. So let's go ahead and we're going to go look at, we're going to do a live example so that we can see the chart gallery and the DP live chart list and the various ways that we can study and index across, study an index and look at all of the indicators across that index. So I'm going to move us over into, there we go, let's go right on into, all right, so I'm going to start us right here off at the member homepage. So like I said, we're going to do an example here of looking at an index specifically and then looking at the indicators across that index. So what are the different ways we can do that? Well, first of all, for free chart analysis, if you're not a member, you can do the index analysis for the S&P 500 using the Decision Point chart gallery. But if you happen to be a member, basic or above, you can use the drop down and also get the chart gallery for the Dow, the NASDAQ 100, and also the S&P 100. So I'll start here with the S&P 500. And what we look at is the trend. We look at the condition of that index. We check out the breadth. And then sentiment really is a market indicator that covers, you know, the market in general. So it's not a specific index, not specifically index related necessarily. All right, so I did my workshop 2 weeks ago on trend and condition analysis. So recommend you go and look either at the Market Watchers live show from that date 2 weeks ago, or I believe you might be able to find it on our YouTube channel as well. So you might want to take a peek at that. So here we go. Let's look at the S&P 500 and how you can use the Decision Point chart gallery. I'll try and scroll slowly through this. So first of all, we look at the trend okay, but I'm going to be concentrating on the indicators, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We do have the PMO, of course, for that index, and that is an indicator. It's not necessarily what you would consider a market indicator, but it does give you a look at what is going on with the S&P 500. Yesterday, I'd expected a bunch of PMO sell signals to come in, and they didn't actually execute yesterday. But as you can see on the S&P 500, today, we should be getting that PMO sell signal. Seeing a PMO top below a zero line and then also give you a sell signal like this, this is really bad. I mean, let's be honest. We haven't seen anything like this on the daily chart, at least for the past year. We've seen where it did try to turn over. Of course, it wasn't nearly as oversold at that time, and it did whipsaw back up. So we'll want to watch. Hopefully we'll whipsaw back up. But, you know, I'm looking at a PMO that's heading almost straight down into this sell signal. So we look at the weekly trend as well. We look at the monthly analysis. All of this is in the free Decision Point chart gallery, and you can get to that from the homepage. Now let's look at the condition of the S&P 500. This is where we start looking at the oscillators, the short-term ones that we have for that index. And as you can see, STOB, oversold territory trying to rise. That is positive for the short term. But this was as of yesterday's close. I suspect with a gap down today, we're probably going to see those turn back down. The intermediate term indicators, oscillators you can get here. Here are decision point ones, the ITBM and ITVM. And then we can go down into more market indicators, and we can look specifically at the S&P 500 and how many stocks are above the 20, 50, and 200-day EMAs. So this is another condition chart you can find in the Decision Point chart gallery. What this is showing you, what's lovely about these big picture indicators, which is another workshop that I did, you get to see the condition across the short, intermediate, and longer terms on these market indicators. For example, this one where we're looking at stocks above their 20, 50, and 200-day EMAs. Obviously, this is more of a short-term look, and this is a longer-term look when we're looking at the 200-day EMAs. We can make a comparison. You know, right now, we're at 40. This hasn't been seen since back in 2016. We haven't had these low readings since then, as far as stocks being below their 200-day EMA. So, like I said, there are a lot of indicators out there that, to me, are showing information I haven't seen in quite some time, if ever. And that is one of the reasons I am worrying about the possibility of this being more of a bear market turn here. All right. PMO signal analysis is also there in the Decision Point chart gallery. And again, short-term, intermediate, and longer term. We can look at which ones have the PMO or momentum rising. We can look at how many are on those buy signals, meaning the PMO crossed above its signal line and remains there. I think it's good news, honestly, that we are seeing 70%, a little over 2/3 of the S&P 500 on buy signals. So I think that is should give you a little bit of comfort at this point about the S&P 500. And then, of course, we have the breadth charts as well. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to show you that if you go into the Decision Point chart gallery, you can get all of these indicators for the S&P 500, whether you are a member or not. Now, if you are a member, like I said, you can get the same indicators for the Dow Jones. And now you can look at the McClellan oscillator for the Dow Jones. You can look at the net new 52-week highs for the Dow Jones. So you're getting all of our indicators for one specific index. So that's what I mean by indicator, starting with an index and then moving through the indicators. The other place you can find information as well on doing index studies in particular. We also have the Decision Point live chart list that I maintain, and you can find that by going to the Decision Point blog. And just like with the Market Watchers blog, you can reach our chart lists right there at the top. So this is my live chart list. And this is another way to go through and look at the various indexes separately and some of the indicators and the information that I find important right now. Unlike the decision point chart gallery, my chart list is going to have annotations. So I have those price trends on the weekly, monthly. I do this for all of, let's see, the NASDAQ, all of the scoreboard indexes. And then it also, I'm going to go really fast. So I also do the Russell 2000 daily, weekly, and the S&P 400 IJH. I look at that as well. So this is one way you can go in and look at the various indexes themselves, and make some notes about how to do what's going on within that index. All right, the other way that you can do this, and I think is the best way to do index analysis, is to download one of the decision point chart packs. And let's go ahead and go right there. So if you go to your account, these are the decision point chart packs that we have right here. And the one I want to talk to you about today is the straight shots one, and we'll cover off the market indicators as well to some degree. But I wanted to show you straight shots first off, because I know I didn't really go over that the last time that I talked about the decision point chart packs. So you can get these chart packs. You just manage your chart packs, and you can install them, remove them, reinstall them if you'd like. But the main thing is that if you look here, the straight shots, you get complete indicator collections for 30 different market indexes. This is how you can go to an index and look at all the indicators across that. So I'm going to show you, because of course I have it, my chart lists, and I'm going to come down here. So obviously I have quite a few here. There's let's get to the decision point ones down here. Here we go. So I have the intraday chart pack. There's the market indicators, which we're going to go over in a little bit. But the straight shots one is the one I want to show you. And this is how you can go start with an index and then look at the indicators all across it. So for example, it shows that I have the sectors, but we don't have those anymore. That's just because this is an older version of the chart pack. But in fact, yeah, let's stay here. So make sure you can see everything. All right, so as you can see, so you can go into the chart pack. Let's do one that we haven't looked at yet. Let's look at the NASDAQ in particular. So when I pull up the NASDAQ, I have the price charts for different time frames. And then I have the various indicators that we cover for the NASDAQ. So if you recall, and the ones that I usually go over are the STOs, the short term. I usually go over the ITBM and ITVM for the S&P. And those are the kind of the main ones that I look at, but we also have the BPA, the bullish percent index. We have advanced declines, new highs, new lows. So basically you can go in, find the index you want to get more information on, and then you can find all of those indicators for that. Let's look at the S&P 600. Give you an idea of what we have for that. There's your price charts. We also do the STOs for the small caps. So it's just a great way if you're looking specifically at something that you want to, an index specifically. Maybe you're interested in tech stocks. Maybe, like I said, you're interested in small caps like we are here. And then you can get in there and you can study all of the different indicators we have for it. I mean, we have AD lines for the S&P 600, quite a few indicators there. So now one of the things I want to show you, let's go ahead and move back into our briefing. All right. So let's start now and look at indicator analysis. And this is the one that I suspect not many people do. You can go in with the decision point market indicators chart pack and pick an indicator and then look at all of the indexes that we track that indicator for. So why might you want to do this? Well, it's great for relative strength analysis. Maybe you want to compare small caps, what's happening with their advances, declines, or new highs, new lows in comparison to what's happening in the larger caps. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ. Maybe you want to do some specific studies looking at just breadth. One that is very interesting right now is volatility analysis. I'm going to go over some of those charts. So you can start with the indicator and then move your way out. So how is the best way to do indicator analysis? Well, the best way, in my opinion, is using our market indicator chart pack. I don't know anywhere else that you can go and find an indicator, look at a specific indicator and find it across all of the indexes. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you how to do that using the market indicator chart pack. So let's go back here. All right. So now I'm going to go back and we're going to view, let's go back to our member dash. And just a reminder, your control center, that's where you're going to find the decision point chart gallery right here. And if you go to the blog articles and click on the decision point blog, that's where you're going to find the decision point live chart list. So again, if you want to start with an index and look at all of its indicators, that's one way to do it. The best way to go with an indicator and then move out and look at it across indexes is using our market indicator chart pack. You do have to be an extra member or above. And the reason being is if you're a basic member, you're only allowed one chart list. And obviously, we have quite a few chart lists in these chart packs. So here are the various market indicators that we do cover. And these are the ones that you can look at across a lot of the indexes. I promised you the volatility index. So let's go ahead and we'll start with that chart list. We have the volatility index for not just the S&P, but we also have it for the NASDAQ 100, the Russell, Dow Jones. We even have gold and crude oil volatility indexes. So if you wanted to start right off and start looking across the board here, here is the volatility index for the S&P 500. I click next, and this is more of it for the S&P 500. Now we're looking at the OEX volatility index. One is inverted, one is not. This is the price as well. We can look at the NASDAQ 100's volatility index. All right. I haven't quite punctured the bottom Bollinger Band. This is on an inverse scale. I like to look at the VIX, the volatility indexes, in this case, the VXN, I believe. I like to look at this, I like to look for punctures of the Bollinger Band, because typically when you get those punctures, that's when you're going to see the price reversals, at least on a very short-term basis. And right now we need to get down here with a VIX over the 32, 33 mark. At that point, I'd start looking for a short-term pop to the upside. But right now, I think we still have some bearish sentiment that we need to continue on with. Russell 2000 volatility index. A lot healthier, isn't it? This is also the reverse scale. The Russell 2000, as far as volatility, is much lower. We can see it's at the top end of its Bollinger Band, meaning relatively it's stronger than the volatility. The bearish sentiment is not as strong on the Russell 2000. And it's actually a little on the positive side because we have spent most of our time above its average. So there you go. There's something right off the bat when we looked at just one indicator where we found something unusual and noteworthy. Maybe we want to look at the small caps right now for investments, just because volatility is lower, and it might be an area that investors are finding comfort in. Actually, I want to do the Dow. So, I mean, how handy is this to pick out one indicator and then be able to look at it across all the different indexes? All right, so let's look at a different one. I've been talking McClellan oscillator. Let's look at the McClellan oscillator chart list. We have the McClellan oscillator for the NYSE, all issues. We have it for the NASDAQ. You can see right here, all of these. Again, I apologize. We don't have it anymore for our sectors. We just don't have the time to track that in our cloud services. That was something we used to do, but we still do have it for all of these different indexes. So let's look at the S&P 600. Remember, I was looking at the volatility. It looked a little more healthy. What are we seeing as far as the McClellan oscillator is concerned? All right, well, we've been above the zero line on the McClellan oscillator. I think that is positive. We'll have to go look and see what's been going on with the NASDAQ on its McClellan oscillator. The summation index is still rising. I don't know that that's the case if we look at the large cap indexes. So let's go look at them. I will look at the S&P 500 first off. Now, what are we seeing as far as the McClellan oscillator here? Well, we do still see it has been above the zero line. That's positive. And we could see summation is rising. It's actually above zero. The summation on the 600 did not show that. So I think that is somewhat interesting here. I would be watching at this point, just when I'm reviewing this chart. Of course, we want to see where we're going to get some tops. The fact that these have been the lows on the McClellan oscillator through 2017 and into 18, the fact that we dropped below that, well below that, gives me a little bit of concern. Now we need to see it's starting to top off as it reaches these bottoms that we had previously. So I think the summation index is not looking too healthy right now for the S&P 500. What does it look like for the NASDAQ? There we go. Well, you can see it's spent a little bit more time below the zero line. Summation index is very unsure about where it wants to go, but it has dropped from the day before's reading to yesterday's reading. So it is actually starting on its way down, and look at how much more oversold it is on the NASDAQ. So that's one of the interesting things you can do as far as looking at indicators first. And you can get an idea of relative strength that way just by seeing the differences in how these indicators react on the various indexes. So that is just about it. Let me go ahead and let's finish off and get our takeaways here. And then we'll look at the poll. So in summary, I know most people do index analysis. You can go in and take a deep dive into the trend and condition of just one index. So you start with the index and you look at each of the indicators for it, like in the Decision Point chart gallery or in the Decision Point live chart list, or best using the chart pack, the DP chart pack straight shots. Indicator analysis is, now you're looking at starting with the indicator and you're doing a relative strength study. You're seeing what's happening with that indicator across all of the different indexes. So I think that that's an interesting way to do your analysis as well. So that's all I had for my workshop, but let's go ahead and pull up the poll. I'm interested in what everybody was thinking as far as that goes. And so I'm happy to see that you do at least study market indicators for other than the S&P 500, that you know where those are and how to get to them. I think that that's excellent. If you're not looking at market indicators for other indexes, hopefully I've given you a really interesting way to go in and take a look at those. And for those of you unsure about what a market indicator is, I did do a workshop on, I think I called it big picture indicators. Market indicators are indicators that are across a whole index. For example, those new highs, new lows, you're looking at for that entire index, how many are, having new highs, how many have new lows. So it's a market indicator. Unlike, for example, when you pull up a stock and you have a PMO on it. That's just specifically an indicator for that stock. It's not considered a market indicator, a big picture indicator. So, Tom, do you look at indicators for other than the S&P 500? Like, do you look at the other VIX volatility indexes or anything like that?
Yeah, I use the VXN quite a bit with the NASDAQ 100 because I trade a lot of NASDAQ stocks. So I actually follow that probably as close, if not closer, than the VIX and the S&P 500, although I probably write about the VIX more often because I think more people are familiar with it. But
Hmm.
I use the VXN quite a bit.
Yeah. And so now, hopefully, everybody has seen that you can get really into the weeds, I guess, if you want to call it that. I think for us, it's just interesting data rather than weeds, by going into an indicator and then looking at it across the board. I don't think people are really aware that we do cover those indicators for those different indexes. So hopefully now you do. And hopefully now you might go in and experiment. Like I said, the decision point chart pack, just go to your account. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just do it really quick since I have a few minutes to explain how to get to. All right. So from your member dashboard or even any page, go to your account and manage chart packs. And if you are an extra member or above, you will have the opportunity to download these various chart packs. I've shown you today the straight shots chart pack, where you start off with an index and move on in to all of the indicators for that index. And then we went ahead and looked at the market indicators chart pack. And that's where you start with the indicator and then look at it across all of the different indexes. So that's how you would find that. And again, DP Chart Gallery, just go over to your control center, and that's where you'll find that. And blogs, Decision Point, which hopefully you visit often. That's where you can find my live chart list. And again, that has the annotations on most of the, well, it has it for the 4 major scoreboard indexes as well as the S&P 400 and Russell 2000. So